I'm John James and I'm part of the church council here at Redcliffe Uniting Church. Today we'll be looking at an event we call the Ascension of Jesus, or just the Ascension. It's a part of the Easter story, believe it or not, coming between the resurrection of Jesus and the arrival of the Holy Spirit, or Pentecost. And it's a largely neglected event in churches these days. I mean, the crucifixion gets a lot of attention, and the resurrection just after that. We spend a whole long weekend pondering the significance of Jesus dying for our sins, then celebrating Jesus' victory over the grave when he was resurrected. And we give a lot of attention to the Holy Spirit, who Jesus tells his disciples they will be baptized with and give them power. The Holy Spirit is implied as the motive force that allows the spread of the gospel in Jerusalem, in all of Judea, in Samaria, and to the end of the earth. And just quietly, who doesn't get all excited about the idea of tongues of fire or the disciples suddenly being able to speak different languages? It's all so magical, so mysterious. But the Ascension, not a lot of love is given to that these days. In fact, it's seen as maybe a little bit embarrassing, to tell you the truth. And I'll deal with one of the reasons why that is, just to get it out of the way. So here we have the disciples getting some teaching from the risen Jesus. In the space of 2 verses, Jesus floats up into the sky and disappears. Where does he go? He goes to heaven, just beyond the clouds, right? But this is the 21st century. We know heaven isn't just beyond the clouds. Many of us have had the experience of being on a plane, looking down at the clouds. Anyone who's had to endure a long-haul flight knows that's just not heaven. When Neil Armstrong and his crew went to the moon and back, no one reported meeting Jesus or seeing angels. No recordings exist of the voice of God welcoming them to heaven and hoping they enjoyed their stay. And I'll put my hand up and admit that this is one of the reasons I've sort of skipped over the Ascension in the past. I just couldn't get past the floating up into the sky thing. But you know what? What if that bit doesn't really matter? What if Jesus was just doing it that way because, well, that's something the disciples would understand and it would be meaningful to them? Think about it. God's got some history of doing things just for us humans. Think about the pillar of fire or smoke from Exodus. Do you think God was really confined to that one spot? Or was that just a way to make it easier for the Hebrews to follow where he was leading? Or what about the Holy Spirit? It's depicted as a dove when Jesus was baptised. Do we think that the Holy Spirit could be captured and kept in a bird cage if only we were quick enough? Later on, it's depicted as those tongues of fire at Pentecost. So it's a bird, but it's fire. Maybe the Holy Spirit is a bird of flames, a phoenix. Of course not. But God shows himself in ways we simple folk can understand, especially when he's got important stuff for us to know. Isn't that why there's an incarnation? An incomprehensible God becomes and lives a human life, Jesus, in part so that the form doesn't distract from the message. So for now, let's just put the question of the location of heaven aside and see what the message of this event might be. And it is an important event in so many ways that there's no way that we could look at them all in the short time we have today. When I was writing this, I looked up other sermons on the Ascension, and there were so many series, not just one-offs, but series with titles like The 6 Reasons the Ascension is So Important, or The 5 Ways the Ascension is Essential to the Gospel, 10 Things the Ascension Teaches Us, and so on. So I'm going to talk about just one. I've picked this one because it's the one that jumped out to me and has changed my view on the universe and how it works. Okay, I've picked this one because with it, the whole Easter story just makes a little bit more sense. For me, it completes the Easter story. Our passage says, "And when he had said these things, they were looking on, and he was lifted up, and a cloud took him out of their sight." So Jesus went into heaven with the body he had on earth. He was lifted up into heaven, not as a spirit, but as a person with a body. See, this completes the Easter story for me because it adds just that little bit more to the uniqueness of Jesus at Easter. At Easter, like I said, we spend time pondering how Jesus was crucified and was buried and then rose again. The thing is, that's not completely unique. Not even in Christianity. There's another story of someone dying and coming back. I'm sure many of you would remember the story of Lazarus. He died, was raised, and presumably went on to live out the rest of his days before dying again. Lazarus was raised physically, not as a spirit or as a ghost, but back into his body to age and eventually live out his life to the normal end. But not Jesus. Jesus was raised, and he was raised back into his body. We know this from the stories about Jesus eating and talking with the disciples. Okay, it was a body with some pretty interesting differences. Jesus was able to appear in locked rooms out of the blue, but he had a body. Unlike Lazarus, Jesus didn't hang around waiting to die again. He took his body with him into heaven. A human in heaven. With the crucifixion, Jesus removed the separation between God and man. Remember how the curtain in the temple was torn at his death? In the resurrection, he showed that he had conquered death. The wages of sin is death. Well, Jesus just rose from the dead, and we believe that one day we will too. And here in the Ascension, what we find is that he also removed the separation between heaven and earth. He rose into heaven with a body. And here's where it blew my mind, where it shifted my understanding of the universe. Because that body Jesus went into heaven with, it was the one with scars. It was the same body that Thomas poked and prodded to prove that Jesus was Jesus. Think about that. We think of heaven as the perfect home of the perfect God, a place separated from our flawed, frail human physicality, separated from all imperfection. But Jesus took his scars with him. He got those scars as a result of the damage done to him at the cross. He got those scars as a result of a life lived among humans, as a result of people, humanity, doing damage to his body. And he took that body into heaven. That says to me that one of two things is going on. Either our idea of heaven is wrong and imperfection is allowed, or maybe scars aren't a sign of imperfection. To answer that question, let me take us to Philippians. It says there, Jesus will transform our lowly body to be like his glorious body. Let me remind you again, Jesus' glorious body had scars. Let me tell you why I think that's important. You may look at me and notice there's a fair bit of stubble on my face today. Okay, that's because I'm growing my beard back after shaving it off for charity. The last time I shaved was 14 years ago. Most people in my life have never seen me without a beard or don't really remember me without one. Since shaving it off, I've had a few comments about how different I look. A few friends have walked past me and not realised it was me. Now, having a beard has become a recognisable part of who I am. I think the same is true of our scars. They can be physical, emotional, or spiritual. But without our scars, how different would we be? And not necessarily better. Depending on how we view them, our scars are symbols of who we are, reminders of why we are who we are, and often in good ways. Scars can be the result of events that have made us more compassionate, or we may have got them as a result of doing something that we really don't want to do again. Scars can be the result of an event that helps us to understand others or to change our perspective. Some of us even create scars on purpose in the form of tattoos. Okay, scars are a part of who we are. And in this event, the event of the Ascension of Jesus, he shows us that doesn't change in heaven. If we follow Jesus to heaven, we go there as whole people, scars and all. So today, I ask you to embrace your scars, physical, emotional, spiritual. If you have some scars that still hurt a little bit too much, reach out to someone you trust to help you to heal. But know that heaven will accept you with your scars, just as it was with Jesus.